our entertainment and sporting precinct, which we announced in the election campaign just a few short months ago. I'm joined by Deputy Premier and Minister for Sport, Rita Saffioti, also a local member and Minister Hannah Beasley, who will be making a few comments as well. Also with me is Owen Whittle from WAM, WA Association of Music, and Wayne Bradshaw from West Cycle, and Russell Saul from the WA Sports Car Club, to make a few comments with regards to this development, which we're, as I said, been talking about for a few months. And this is a significant project, and it's an important part of my vision for making Perth and Western Australia an event destination of Southeast Asia. It's an important part of our strategy to diversify the Western Australian economy, bring events, bring tourism, bring hospitality opportunities right into the heart of the city. And it's a really exciting development, making use of this great precinct between Optus Stadium and the Burswood Casino at Crown. At the state election, Western Australians overwhelmingly endorsed this vision, and we know that events are going to play an important part of our economy and the vibrancy of our city going forward. We want Western Australians to keep playing a role as part of that vision. And with commencing today, we're undertaking consultation around the design and construct and delivery of the new Perth Entertainment and Sporting Precinct. This is a critical milestone in terms of delivering the project, making sure we talk to local government, local communities, sports clubs, community groups, everyone that has a role to play in forming the vision around the new Perth Entertainment and Sports Precinct. It will allow the community to get involved so that this precinct can be a world-class venue that we have committed to delivering. When complete, Burswood Park will be host to more major sporting events, more live music, and importantly, more community functions, creating an entertainment hub that complements Optus Stadium and is bookended by Burraloo and Matagara Bridges. It will mean Perth has an opportunity to host big ticket functions like annual motorsports events, large music events, and we've seen the excitement that was created through the UCI World Championships, Cycling Championships last year. You could see this precinct play an important role for hosting those sort of events. In the meantime, it will remain an important open space for Perth people to enjoy, to making sure that we enhance the environmental aspects of this particular precinct, continuing to ensure that it plays an important role of bringing activity and vibrancy to the edges of the Derby-Yerrigan here on the Swan River. I want to diversify the West Australian economy. That means that we have to continue to grow our tourism and hospitality sectors, and we need to keep attracting major events to Perth. That's why we're getting on with the job with our commitment to develop the Perth Entertainment and Sports Precinct on the Burswood Peninsula. Under my government, Perth has already hosted major events like Coldplay, WWE, and international soccer matches. We want to continue to do that, but we need to have the infrastructure and the opportunities to make that happen. And with this precinct, there will be even more opportunities to host events and cement Perth's status as a major event destination for Southeast Asia. And with that, I'll hand over to the Deputy Premier to discuss some of the details of the project.
Thank you very much, Premier. As the Premier outlined, this was a key election commitment we took at the election just held a few months back. Now, this site is an incredible site, and we've seen its transformation over recent decades. It was a site of cement works, and it then became a major landfill site. Then, of course, we saw its progression into a golf course. Then we saw Optus Stadium. We've seen the Matagara Bridge. We've had mini golf. We've got the new zip line, we've got the tennis centre, and we're seeing this evolve into a major sports and entertainment precinct. It is a place where we can showcase our state, we can showcase our beautiful river, and it's also a place where we want to encourage and continue to host major events, major concerts, and make sure we can activate this area and ensure that we can use it as part of our plan to continue to support more tourism and more activity in this state. What we'll be announcing today is the opening of community consultation. We will be seeking feedback from the community about the delivery of this project. In relation to our consultation, we'll be holding drop-in forums, community consultation forums, and of course, we're sending information to over 25,000 households. We've already started a process of engagement with key stakeholders and with representatives of local government and also residents' associations. Daniel Pastorelli, the Cabinet Secretary to the Premier, has been appointed to lead those stakeholder consultation and help drive this project, and he's already met with the key groups, in particular representatives and mayors of the key local governments. As we've said, this is a major project to help support future events, future activity in the state. A key part of this will be the amphitheatre, and this will create a new outdoor music venue. We know that we need to continually support having new acts and Western Australian acts in this state performing in outdoor venues, and we know over recent years the cost of hosting these types of events has increased dramatically in relation to moving stages in place and getting services in place. Having permanent infrastructure will support having more events and will reduce the cost pressures in relation to hosting outdoor music events. In relation to the racetrack, it'll be double as not only for motorsports, but in particular for cycling. And the other key point I want to make is that it is difficult. The other key point we want to make is that when it's not used for that one weekend of the year, it will not be accessible to cars, and we'll make sure that cyclists, pedestrians and also the community have access to that part of that track. So this is really a community venue. It's going to make sure we have the ability to host a range of events. And as I said, in relation to the cycling community, we saw the incredible success of the cycling championships we had more recently. Traffic management, closing down streets is always a costly exercise. By having a permanent racing cycling track, it's also going to support more cycling activity in the future. So we're very, very excited by the next stage of the process, which is not only community consultation, but we're going to go out to the market in relation to delivery partners and who will work with us to deliver this incredible new multi-use sports and entertainment precinct. I'll throw to Hannah Beasley.
Thank you, Rita. Look, as a local member, I am really excited that community consultation is opening today and is open for the next number of weeks. My community has wanted to be consulted with on this project, and now is their opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to getting more of their feedback so that informs the best possible outcomes we can get for our beautiful Burswood Entertainment and Sporting Precinct. I'm really happy with how things are progressing and the amount of consultation that will happen. It will be comprehensive. There will also be opportunities to get information from the experts who are dealing with this project to answer all those questions that I know that my community members have, as well as others as well. And I think that they will be very, very happy to be able to get that information and to be able to feed their ideas into the process and know that they're going to get the best outcomes for our area. Thank you.
Where are you from, Russell?
Yeah, hi, I'm Russell Saul. I'm from the WA Sporting Car Club. And I've got to say I'm very impressed with the initiative to take on the Perth Entertainment Sporting Precinct. It's fantastic to bring people to the city, and it makes me think of build it and they will come. And that's what you'll see. You build it, they will come, you need to put on the events. Specifically, what it does for motorsport, it puts a spotlight on motorsport. It broadens the audience of spectators, the tourists and participants. It's a magnificent thing. And working in conjunction with other events, Wanneroo and so forth, the future of motorsport in this state is great. I see that it will take the state forward, and to have that diversification in our economy, much needed, and I think this is the team that can do it. I really thank them very much for it. Thank you.
Russell, do you see more motorsport than the government says? Like they're just saying a few days' worth. Do you see other events here?
Jeff, not necessarily here, but there's certainly a scope for other events elsewhere, such as Wanneroo Park.
There has been calls from Wanneroo that they would prefer a refit of Wanneroo. How desperate is that needed?
There probably will be that refit of Wanneroo. It will be improved as we go along. As that motorsport pie, or that motorsport participation and spectator participation increases, that will come along with it. So more events, more activities on that existing site.
Could this facility, the track here post F1?
It would have to be built to an F1 standard, which is very, very stringent. You would have to talk to an FIA track inspector for that, but it could be done. But how much do you want to spend?
We'll just have Owen and some comments from the deputy.
Thanks.
Owen Whittle, Chief Executive Officer of West Australian Music. A 15 to 20,000 person outdoor venue will put Perth back on the map for kind of international tours and national tours, which too often do miss Western Australia. It'd be great for music fans, but it also gives us a real opportunity to kind of get local supports in supporting those bigger artists as a way to launch careers and make sure that kind of local artists and emerging local artists have those much bigger platforms to kind of generate income, generate fans and expose themselves to Perth, but also around the country. We're supportive of all investments in live music and really look forward to this being able to deliver results for not only music fans, but also our kind of local contemporary music industry.
Can you name a couple of bands, like in terms of the public attraction that they would have that would play here?
Oh, there'd be countless bands around a year that kind of tour Sydney, Melbourne, maybe Brisbane, but miss off Perth. And I think one of the real important parts of this is the infrastructure that'll be built into it, which means if those bands are coming from Sydney, they might not need to bring huge amounts of equipment, because if that equipment's already built into the live music venue, it will massively reduce their freight costs and makes Perth a much more attractive kind of leg to their destinations. And also with Southeast Asia and Perth's proximity to there, we may even be able to bring in kind of acts and artists who are touring Southeast Asia, coming to Perth and then leaving off the East Coast, which would be great for music fans in WA.
So is this why this facility is better than, say, HBF Park or RAC Arena?
Yeah, look, if the settings are done right and we invest and have that kind of infrastructure permanent and built into the venue, it really reduces those pop-up music costs, like, you know, the pop-up stages, the temporary sound, and all the other bits and pieces that have to be built in some of those venues, and it makes it much more attractive for kind of artists and bands to book Perth.
Do you see it being a more central alternative to venues like Red Hill and out at Sandalwood, where we've seen access problems in recent years?
Look, I think all these venues will coexist. They're all of different sizes, they all cater to different audiences and different means. I think they'll all work together in a live music infrastructure that starts to turn Perth into kind of a live music city. Thanks.
Yes, we're really excited about the vision to transform this precinct into a vibrant arts and entertainment and sporting facility. There's a great opportunity to attract international events, cycling events. We saw from the Road Nationals earlier this year the appetite for West Australians for bike riding. We also want to get more people riding bikes. People on bikes are looking for a safe place to ride, and the opportunity for a closed circuit will provide the chance for people to learn to ride through our kids programs, schools programs, and those who are novice riders, plus our clubs and more active participants of people who are riding bikes to actually get out on a closed circuit track that is completely safe. We'll also see great opportunities for major events internationally and boosting tourism and activity. And we see the criterium circuit being used whenever there's not a major event on. So it'll be a facility that will be used by a broad range of people just about every day of the year. And so we're really looking forward to it. West Cycle's been lobbying for a criterium track for some time, and this will be a game changer for cycling in WA.
Forgive my ignorance, but how frequently globally, like how many competitions are there, cycling competitions held on racetracks?
It's a regular occurrence. There's a UCI World Series, and I think one of the big opportunities for us is actually to take a bit of the shine off, or provide an opportunity to ride off the back of the Tour Down Under that's held in South Australia, that generates a huge amount of interest and employment and revenue in tourism dollars for the state. So we've got an opportunity to ride on the back of that and to create some events that will attract international cyclists that will serve the needs of West Australians.
Okay, just to, I think in particular, back in a couple of points in relation to what Owen said, we know that the transport costs, in particular the freight costs for touring acts, has increased over the past 4 to 5 years, in particular from those across the Nullarbor. So having the permanent infrastructure we believe will make it much easier to attract international, interstate events and also support local acts. As we said, in relation to supporting through the tourism budget, a lot of that support sometimes is actually getting the infrastructure in place to hold the event. We saw that with the racing criterion through Northbridge. Traffic management is a massive issue, closing down roads. Having a dedicated circuit here will very much support cycling and music events. In relation to motorsports, as I said, the current project will see, of course, us having the supercars. In relation to Formula One, where one thing in the future could be Formula E, and we're making sure that our circuit could accommodate Formula E.
So do you want it to? How much more would it cost to accommodate Formula One?
Oh well, we haven't done that study in relation to what it would cost to accommodate Formula One, but I think the design of the track will make sure that we can accommodate, for example, Formula E if that's an opportunity.
Are you rebranding this racetrack as an entertainment precinct because there's been such fierce opposition from locals, council opposition?
Well, when we announced it, we did, and I tried to point out that this is a multi-use venue. So what I'm so excited by is the fact, to be honest, we can get all those cyclists who sometimes on the weekend are out there cycling very fast on our roads onto this dedicated track, and have them pretty much most days of the year access a track a closed track where they can train and also ride. Young kids as well being able to have a safe place in which to ride. We also pointed out there was going to be an outdoor music venue. So this is what we did point out, of course. Some people then tried to portray it, and I'd say that in the there were some people who wanted to call it a motorplex. It's not a motorplex. It's not a motorplex at all. It's a sports and entertainment precinct that will help drive activity and create new opportunities to host events into the future. No, we didn't.
You're talking about all these people who come and cycle, and then you mix them up with kids with trainer wheels and all that sort of stuff. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster.
It's permanent infrastructure. There'll be plenty of room, plenty of time for everyone in the community to use it.
What are you going to? So you're going to say kids under 9 can use it this time, and older people can use it that time? Is that how you're going to keep them?
I think it'll be big enough to allow all of them to use it.
The government has backed away from election promises before. We saw that with the high rise after backlash from the public. Do you see yourself, if community consultation goes badly, axing this deal, or is this locked in?
We delivered. Is that in relation to the school?
The pre-2017 promise of the high rise in the city, that was you backed away from.
We delivered that high school, so we did deliver the high school. Look, this is a commitment we gave. I think there's been a lot of misinformation about what we proposed, and also some of the other aspects of it. I believe it's been a political campaign in the context that we've had a state and federal election. We've had the Greens and the Liberal Party combining to, I think the Prime Minister calls them the no-alition. So this has been in the context, I think, a political campaign, and I think when people get to realise the incredible benefits it has for the entire state, and the fact that this will be very much a community venue, that's something that will bring incredible opportunities, whether it be for cycling community, whether it be for the music community, and of course in relation to having a supercars event over a weekend. I think people will see that this is an incredible project for the state.
So that's the main motorsport event a year. It seems like a lot of money to spend on developing a motorsport track for one motorsport weekend a year.
Well, if you look at the total cost, that includes it includes the amphitheatre, and in relation to the total budget, the amphitheatre is actually the biggest share in relation to the cost. So it includes an amphitheatre. It includes the other point I'll make, and this is access to the stadium. And one of my biggest, I think, issues is in relation to access to the stadium, taxi ranks, Uber access, and of course access for disability services for people with disability issues and access issues. Currently, In relation to those with a disability, it's very difficult in relation to the timing of when they have to arrive and access. So this will help address all of those issues.
Are you just saying that it's just the one event a year, motorsport, or is the door open for further motorsport?
As I said, the plan is in relation to supercars, but I will say that Formula E is something that we may pursue in the future.
One of the loudest voices against this has been the local mayor, Karen Vernon. How has that relationship changed since the election? Are you hoping to win her over on this?
Well, I think Daniel met with the mayor yesterday. In relation to that mayor, she's opposed pretty much anything we've done. So, for example, she opposed Metronet, she opposed the elevated rail. I think she's opposed pretty much anything we've ever done.
Sorry, that you're ruling out you think you can win the town of Vic Park over there?
Well, that mayor has, as I said, she's opposed everything we've done. I'd say that the way she acted during the campaign, in when she distributed unauthorised flyers in relation to this and made it very much a party political matter. That's what the mayor did. She brought party politics into this.
Is there anyone on the council that support it? Have you got any supporters within the town of Vic Park?
I think there's been some briefings of the administration, and I think it's one of those issues where I think most people, when they look at the facts, will see how much this supports our business community in Victoria Park. But of course, in relation to residents, and in particular the residents of the towers, there's going to be intensive communication and consultation. And that's already started. And we understand in relation to residents in particular of the towers, they want a lot of consultation, they've got a lot of questions, and we're very much focused on making sure we can deliver that consultation to them.
As soon as you open the consultation period, though, a lot of them are just going to say, don't build it at all. What's your response to that?
Well, we've got a commitment to deliver, and as I said, there's a couple of things that we're getting feedback on, in particular, for example, the vegetation. So as part of many of our projects, for example, the Burswood Bridge, we basically plant more vegetation than we remove. There's issues with the ponds, how they want to make sure we keep some ponds. Of course, we'll be looking at that. But I'll just say in relation to the ponds, there's some issues in relation to that water quality. And so whatever we replace it with will have higher water quality than what exists now.
So you sound hopeful that you can actually win some of those residents over, that it's not just we're not starting from a sort of polar opposites here, that you can actually win them over with some concessions.
Well, what we've already seen is when people understand the breadth of the project and the fact this builds on this area being a sporting and entertainment precinct, most residents will understand that this will be a major positive to the community. As I said, there are some that wanted to use it as a party political platform during a state and federal election. And I'll say that because the flyers that were distributed were party political. That's what they were.
Will their house prices improve?
Yeah.
In relation, I don't never predict house prices.
Does anyone here own any of those or live within this area? Anyone involved in this discussion?
I'm in East Vic.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if you had bought one of those apartments before this was proposed, would you be happy having Formula E in your front yard?
Yes, we've seen in relation to Albert Park what's happened in relation to that area after Formula One was introduced in Albert Park. The same concerns were had, and we've seen that being a very vibrant precinct. We've seen the federal government, the Victorian government, just inject another $350 million into permanent infrastructure in Albert Park. No, the incredible demand for that infrastructure right through the year.
Just back to my earlier question, was this entertainment precinct an afterthought? You said you didn't brand it as that, just looking at one of your previous government flyers. A re-elected Cook Labor government will build a motorsport street circuit at Burswood Park. Where was the information about an entertainment precinct?
I think if you go through the whole media statement, and when you go through my press conference, I remember I was talking about cycling and how and the embankment. I described a lot of things, and we had actually the representatives from the National Australian Championships from cycling there at the press conference. So this has always been a multi-use facility. That's the benefit of it. It means that we can host a major motorsport event, but also we can support cycling championships. We've seen in relation to Albert Park, we've seen people do walking, cycling, running. We've seen kids on there. And the other point I'd say is that street circuit will not be available to cars outside of any major event. I think that's, again, I think a bit of a misconception that's out there, that somehow this is a permanent motorplex, which it isn't. It's a street. It's a street being laid down, going to be used for cycling majority of the year, and on that weekend we'll be using it for supercars.
Can you just confirm that, like Vic Park Drive, etc., the roads will still be roads outside of event days? Is that right?
Vic Park Drive in Canfield, yes,
Yeah.
but the internal roads we'll be building won't be.
Okay.
Won't be roads.
So how, just with the cycling thing, people using cycling on non-event days?
If you look at the racetrack, it can be broken down into two parts, which is an internal criterion plus the full racetrack.
So will you be pushing new Perth Bears CEO?
Oh yeah, well I just read about it. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I just read about it, so I don't know much about it.
Can I ask about the Women's and
Sure.
Babies Hospital? Are you concerned that WeBuild doesn't have experience building hospitals in Australia, and do they need a junior builder partner that has more experience in WA?
Well, they do have experience in building hospitals outside of Australia, and in receiving briefings on this, we understand and we know that they've actually recruited significantly from the hospital space. But my experience in relation to major projects is not only the head contractor and the name of the contractor, but it's the teams they bring in underneath to lead projects. And our understanding, and I understand that WeBuild in particular has brought in teams that have extensive experience in building hospitals in Australia. So as I said, not every contractor on any given day will have the experience to build all the range of infrastructure, but it's actually the team they build, and WeBuild has got the team in place.
Do you see, though, the need for a joint venture with another builder that has local experience, given that's what was the letter of intent was signed?
No, because WeBuild has brought in the expertise and the teams that have delivered hospitals in Australia. As I said, this is about the teams they have in place that help deliver projects, and I've seen it through Metronet. It's about the teams you bring in place, what experience they have, and they're the ones that basically lead the project. So we're very confident with the teams that WeBuild have brought in place in relation to particular personnel and the experience they've had in delivering hospitals in other parts of Australia.
Do you stand by the due diligence that was done before the letter of intent was signed? And I don't know if this is a better place for you, Premier, but the due diligence that was done before December, that, I mean, it's 5 months later and the company's gone under. Should there have been a closer check of Roberts Code, their setup, their business was structured?
Well, the Department of Finance did undertake significant due diligence. The key point is that we haven't signed a contract yet. And so we've been able to understand and work through all of these issues through this period of time when there was just a letter of intent. And so we're very keen to sign that contract as soon as possible. So, look, WeBuild is a major organisation around the world. They've been able to deliver projects in Western Australia and around the world, and we're confident with a partnership to deliver what will be an incredible asset and project for the state.
You're confident this won't delay the project?
Absolutely.
So it's still on track for 2029?
Yes.
Can I just quickly get one of Dan, just on the stakeholder meetings? So you met with Karen yesterday, how did that go? And who else have you met with? And are you going to meet with the Save Burswood Park group?
Yeah, I met with some residents of the Save the Burswood Park group yesterday, and that was, overall, was a pretty positive experience. I think what people have really appreciated is putting the facts on the table and getting the information out there. What we've seen in the past is there's been a lot of misinformation, so getting the facts on the table has helped. And they've really appreciated the fact that we're going through a very rigorous community consultation process where they've all got an opportunity to be able to provide their feedback, give their ideas about how we can make sure we get a great outcome here at the precinct. In relation, sorry?
Yeah, just the mayor.
Yeah, sure. So I've met with the Perth Deputy Mayor, I've met with the Vincent Mayor, and I've also met with the Mayor of Town of Victoria Park. Overall, a positive experience in relation to the Mayor of Victoria Park. I'd say it's probably been robust, but from my perspective, it was positive. I learnt a lot about Karen. Karen's a big fan of motorsport, which I didn't know. She's had the opportunity to race around Wanneroo Raceway. She had the great opportunity to be at the Monaco Grand Prix for Formula One, so I'm very jealous of that. So I didn't realise she was a fan of motorsport, but understand she's got some concerns that her ratepayers have raised, and we'll work through those concerns. and make sure that we get a fantastic precinct here. And one of the great things about this project is that the level of investment in public infrastructure, that all members of the public, from the local residents to the ratepayers to everyone across the state, will be able to come down and enjoy day in, day out. Obviously, on one weekend, there will be a street circuit for a motorsport event, and that will also be fantastic for the state in other ways.
Do you agree with the Deputy Premier that Karen Burnham's position is purely based on politics?
Well, yeah, she's been out there on the record. She was out letterboxing during the state election campaign with flyers. I think it was put Labor last, so that's party political.
What was your response when the Premier asked you to take this challenge on?
I was over the moon. I always look forward to a challenge, and I'm really passionate about this project, and I think it's going to be fantastic for the state in the long run.
There's a reason you picked it.
Yeah, that's right.
On
Yes.
Anthony DeSegley's
Yes.
appointment as CEO, was that a surprise to you?
Oh, well, look, if it's true, I think it'd be an outstanding result for Western Australia. Anthony's a born and bred Perth boy with deep business and community connections in Sydney from his time working over there just currently. So if there's an opportunity for him to come back home and to grow the Perth Bears, I think that'll be terrific.
Did he help you at all in your negotiations with the NRL and Peter V'landys?
Oh, look, I've certainly spoken to Anthony from time to time with respect to bringing another code to WA. He played no formal role in terms of the negotiations.
So how did you find out?
Is that unusual to consult with him about what's
Oh, he's a mate. So I asked.
his he's a mate of yours?
Yeah. So I talked to him. I know he knows Peter V'landys. As you know, mine and Peter V'landys' relationship hasn't been completely smooth throughout this whole process.
Yeah.
Did he facilitate any kind of olive branches? No, nothing like that.
So when and how did you find out about this?
Oh, look, I knew that Anthony had been approached by the NRL. Obviously, they were involved in negotiation in terms of arrangements, and Anthony would have had issues that he would have to speak to with his current employer.
Am I reading between the lines here that you found out with the rest of us today?
Well, certainly I got a text message from one of my staff earlier today. DeSegley for Bears. I was thinking, okay, well that's interesting because I think he'd be an outstanding appointment.
Can I ask on the Prime Minister's response to the North West Shelf yesterday?
Yeah.
Were you disappointed that he didn't share your government's sense of urgency on the approval for, or the decision on the extension?
Well, look, as you know, there are a range of issues that we want the Prime Minister to be getting stuck back into now that he's sworn his team in. I wrote to him just last week to say that the consideration of the issues around North West Shelf and the Karratha gas plant are front and centre for Western Australia, and we want him to respond to that urgency as with us. I know that the Minister for the Environment reached out to the new Minister for the Environment in the Albanese government, and I expect that they will treat that as a matter of urgency.
But the response, sorry, Jeff, the response yesterday was this isn't a matter until the 2030s, so he seemed like he was keen to take his time on this. Does that concern you?
Well, I know that they want to consider it carefully. We want them to make a decision. Clearly, we want a positive decision, but we want them to make a decision which is beyond a legal challenge. We want it to be a safe decision. And from that perspective, we want them to step through this carefully, but we want them to step through it deliberately and to reach a decision as soon as possible.
Just in the hospital,
Sure, yeah.
Earlier, was enough due diligence done?
Well, yes, we've had probity officers obviously working right across these very complex discussions. As the Deputy Premier observed, we haven't actually signed a contract yet. But obviously when we saw Roberts Co meeting some financial difficulties recently, they were reached out to. Roberts Co voluntarily has stepped away from this project. We remain very positive and confident about WeBuild's capacity to deliver this project by 2029. WeBuild are a global company. They have 95,000 employees, an order book of around about 100 billion, and have built hospitals right around the world. We know that they've brought teams into Western Australia, particularly some from Victoria, who have recently finished the new heart hospital in that state. So we know they've got local skills and expertise to draw on as well.
When you see government terms, then what happens now? Like in the simplest terms, what are the next steps? What do you do to resolve this?
We need to finalise the negotiations over the contract, and obviously the fact that Roberts Co aren't part of it now will form part of those discussions. As you'd expect, that has been handled by experts and senior government officials.
When did the government become aware of the financial position of Roberts Co?
Oh, look, my understanding is that we made inquiries about a fortnight ago, or when they published their difficulties on the East Coast, and the conversations have been going on since then.
So they didn't pull out of this earlier?
No, my understanding they did not, but they withdrew voluntarily.
Are you likely then to sign a contract just with WeBuild? Is that where your head's at?
Oh, well, look, I'm not going to predict.
Does that letter of intent still indicate that WeBuild is the preferred proponent?
Absolutely. WeBuild are still the preferred proponent. As you indicated, we signed a letter of intent with them, and we are continuing to with the negotiations to finalise the contract to be announced as soon as possible. Yeah, we have had no information which would suggest that this will in any way delay the project.
Minister Carey said this morning Nadi is not looking to make live commentary on procurement process. Don't you think the public deserves to know what's happening with this project?
We do need to make sure that people have confidence that we are carefully managing the financial relationships we have with a major contractor. I understand that, and that's an important part of what we do in government. We're obviously not going to try to become part of those negotiations in terms of our public commentary, but we do want to see that contract finalised as a matter of finalised as soon as we can, so we can get on with it.
You said previously,
You
said previously that you want to see more Tier 1 builders operating in WA to bring costs of major projects down. Is that virtually impossible?
No, look, Perth in Western Australia more generally is one of the most isolated economies in the world. We are a growing economy and a growing community and population. But to bring whole teams, whole construction companies, particularly Tier 1s, into Western Australia has always been a challenge. I remember when we were last in government under the Gallop leadership, Treasurer at the time, Eric Ripper, actually went across the world trying to encourage Tier 1 builders to come to Western Australia. It's hard work. I mean, one of the great benefits of the Metronet project, particularly through the Forest Airport link, is that it's brought a big company like WeBuild to WA. Now they're interested to see what else they can do, and obviously the Women's and Babies Hospital is a great opportunity for them to consolidate their operations in WA.
Premier, the selling off RAC, selling off its insurance portfolio, another WA iconic.
Oh, look, I'm not familiar with the announcement that RSC's made today, but obviously they're an iconic Western Australian institution that have looked after Western Australians for many years. If you look across a lot of their insurance products, they're underwritten by a range of other insurance companies. It's a complex business, but the RAC product is one that we've all, including myself, relied upon for many years. So we hope that they can continue to support Western Australian motorists and Western Australians looking for good insurance.
WA's unemployment rate rose by 0.5% in April to 4.2%, equal highest in the country. At the same time, the number of employed West Aussies fell by 4,300, 0.2%. Your reaction to that?
Oh, well, look, these numbers will bounce around. Ironically, it's probably good that we're seeing a little bit of fat coming into the labour market in Western Australia. It means that this really strong workforce shortage that we've been experiencing over the last 18 months to 2 years is perhaps starting to lighten up a bit. So that's sort of bringing normal dynamics back into the labour market. We are confident that we'll continue to see strong growth in employment in Western Australia. We have the highest participation rate in the country, and that's an important part of making sure that Western Australians are the beneficiaries of those growing job opportunities.
Just on the Venues West staffer who was caught up in the Triple C investigation, are you concerned that Venues West didn't do enough due diligence themselves and She was appointed to quite a senior position.
I've spoken to Minister Safiotti with regards to this today. She will undertake a review and look into those circumstances. We have no reason to have cause for concern that any activities were negative activities were undertaken in the time that this person spent at the WA Institute of Sport, or Venues West, wasn't it? Sorry, Venues West, my apologies. But obviously, Minister Safiotti will want to be able to get across that brief.
But does it concern you? I guess the Venues West probably wasn't aware that she was subject to a CCC report or findings.
Yeah.
Does there need to be a way in which those can be communicated in the event that something's gone on? Should she have been honest with Venues West?
Well, look, I mean, part of the problem is if you're subject to a CCC inquiry is that you're not allowed to speak to anyone about it. And so even though she's applying for jobs, undertaking activities in the community and in her workplace, she is actually obliged under the Act not to talk about it. So it's part of the strength of the CCC investigative process, which allows them to undertake deep investigations and get to the bottom of issues. But people not being able to disclose that either to a prospective employer or to their family, quite frankly, is part of that process.
Will that inquiry, though, include the role of the CCC in that if Venues West did its diligence and asked the employment history of this woman, that the CCC found itself in some circumstances unable to reveal what the situation was?
Yeah, well, look, I'd certainly like to get to the bottom of it, Jeff, because it does actually suggest that there's a gap in the system, if you like. Obviously, it's not a great look if you have someone who's under investigation, then being employed in other parts of the public sector. But because of the way that the CCC's investigations are structured under their Act, it limits people's capability to disclose that investigation is even taking place. And so, these are all opportunities to continue to learn and refine those processes.
In my memory, as I understand it, there were a couple of other very high-profile corruption cases where they were allowed to stay in employment so that the investigation wasn't interrupted. I mean,
that's right. And look, I'm not an expert in investigation or regulation in relation to this area. It is a complex area. But we do want to make sure that, if someone is under investigation, that that investigation, by virtue of it being undisclosed, doesn't lead to further misconduct and activity in the public sector. Thanks for that.